Okay, let's start. All got your chanting sheet? Okay. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamame bante buri panya tathagata kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamame dhamma sanditika akalika kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamame sangha supatipana anuttara sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tisarana gamanang paripunang. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adina dana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Abrahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sura meraya macha pamadatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Nacha Gita Vadita Visuka Dasana Malaganda Vilepana Dharana Mandana Vibhusanatana Veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Uchasayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikkapadang Samadhiyami. Idang me silang Magapala Jnanasa Pachayo Hotu Appamadena Sampadeta Sa. When you take the precepts, you're supposed to be in a kneeling position, not sitting cross-legged. If you cannot sit you cannot kneel, then you must have put one leg at the side. First thing. Second thing, when you pay respect, you're not supposed to sit cross-legged and pay respect. That's a lazy person paying respect. You're supposed to have the 5-point prostration, if you know which is it. Yeah. Anyway, welcome to some of you who just arrived today. And the ladies are getting more people. Nevertheless, you can still able to function. So the next testing will be on the, what day? Thursday, is it? So every 2 weeks, we will do testing. That means every one of us will do the testing also. Now, before we start also the Q&A, since we are here, during breakfast and lunch, when the bell rings, don't come down yet. Yeah. Give me about 5 minutes plus minus, then only I'll come down. After I sit down, and then some devotees or those people who come for dana, they will come for offering the food. Then after they leave, then only slowly you'll come down. So it will take roughly about, just very quickly, nowadays also no chanting. They offer, they leave already. So once they leave, then the yogi can start off with taking the food. So don't have to rush down. Okay. So the Dhamma talk will be on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We have a Q&A session like today. So in the meantime, there will no other yogis coming in until 2 more weeks later. Here, while we are in the beginning of the retreat, some of us, now hopefully you'll follow the schedule. 1 hour walk, 1 hour sit. And I mean, this time is sometimes it's quite difficult for us to come for a retreat. Everywhere is all limited amount of yogis we can take. So make sure we come here, you strive. This is no more trying, Try here and there. Trying is other retreats, you go try. Here is you strive. You strive. You walk, sit, walk, sit, walk, sit, walk, sit. All right. Then you will see the interview list coming up on the Wednesday, but the interview most probably will be on Thursday. Either Tuesday or Wednesday, the new list will come up. So the Tuesday will there will still be interview for the rest who already been here. So interviews will be on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. You see your name there, you come. You don't see your name there, don't come. All right. So, okay. We'll start off with a Q&A. Tonight we have a number of question and answer. A number of questions, sorry. And I don't think we have the time to do a guided karuna. We'll do the guided karuna on Monday. Okay. All right. There's a number of questions here. Okay. All right. Question number 1. If we do sitting meditation for a longer period, that is to say, more than 1 hour each session, does it help us to make progress faster? If we do sitting meditation for a longer period, that is more than an hour each session, does it help us to make progress faster? Now, this question is a kind of it's not a direct answer. It all depends. It all depends. But mostly, no. Mostly, no. Sometimes, perhaps, it may be. It all depends, as I said. Now, the way that we do this retreat, we run this type of retreat, especially the Mahasi retreat. We are expected to meditate throughout the whole day. Whether you are walking and sitting, you have to take those things seriously. You have to take it seriously. Sometimes, if you come from other retreats, people just take the walking very easily and they don't really bother about it. But then they come to the sitting, they try to develop something there. So this is not the way how I run a retreat. I run a retreat, make sure that the whole day you are as mindful as you can, as best as you can. Now, because of that, the way that we try to do the retreat from the morning right to the evening, then here, your energy, concentration, mindfulness, as you keep trying, keep mindful, keep paying attention to your objects of your meditation, then it will develop a little bit by little bit throughout day after day. First few days, there will definitely be a lot of sleepiness. A lot of sleepiness that's going to come in. So first few days, you have to push it through until the mind becomes clear. Now, after a number of days, when the mind becomes clearer, as the sitting meditation starts to pick up, and as the mind becomes clearer, rising, falling sensation starts to become clearer. At that time, yogis tend to want to sit for a longer period of time because objects are clear. Naturally objects are clear. They want to sit more than that so that they want to see things much more clearer. We understand that. We understand what they are going through. Sometimes also, like for example, they sit until like 15 minutes, 55 minutes, then about to get up, the pain all come in. Then they start to note the pain. Because you just take the pain 5 minutes and you don't feel satisfied enough yet. You want to note more than that. So once in a while, the yogi want to do that. Well, that one, it's up to the nature of the yogi. But generally, we don't recommend you to sit more than an hour in a retreat session. When you're doing this type of retreat, when you're at home, perfectly you can do that because you are not continuously doing it throughout the whole day. Now, when you do more than an hour, session after session, what we'll normally see from the yogi is this. that progress actually doesn't go much further. In fact, the stagnation of the development starts to take place. A lot of yogis, I'm not saying all yogis, I'm saying a lot of yogis starts to stagnate. They stagnate because one of the biggest reasons is their faculties starts to disturb, their mental faculties. In other words, their noting mind. Their noting mind starts to become disturbed. They don't realize that how these faculties disturb, because sometimes when they sit for a longer period of time, sometimes for some yogis, let's say after 45 minutes, their energy starts to drop. The energy starts to drop. Then objects are not so clear anymore. Yeah? Objects are not so clear, but they thought that they want to sit a bit more longer. So when they start to sit longer, then the energy will start dropping even further, and then they sit there, nothing really, nothing much. Yeah? Then it goes, there's nothing much to notice, but they just sit there. But it's pleasant, it's calm, it's peaceful. But they feel good, they feel excellent, they feel nice. And yet, the mind is not going further. The progress is not going any more further. It's just that only. Yeah. So the progress is not going any more further, although the yogi can sit longer. So this is one thing. The second thing is this. When we do this meditation, sometimes you have a lot of strong sensation that develops. Like, for example, pain develop, aches develop, pulling sensation develop, a lot of things that is going quite strong. And sometimes even, like, for example, for you to last that 15 minutes or half an hour, it takes a lot of energy, and you try to not, That day I talk about I was talking about the effort. The time I was talking about the effort, I was talking about that the energy that you need to build the mind in order for you to note those different types of pain. Because of that, noting the different type of pain, it produces itself more effort, more energy, because the object is strong. So you try to stay with it, you try to note it, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. But the bell rings. You still got something to see. If the thing is not going over yet, it's not clearing yet. So when it's not clearing at that time, you keep noting it, and then it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So the more that you note, the more the mind gets into haywire. So the mind gets into a lot of restlessness and thinking and so on. So this is one thing. This is another way why, because of the nature of our practice throughout the whole day, we do that. But if we are not doing this way of walking, sitting throughout the whole day, then you can sit a bit more longer. Every sitting is not a problem. But now it's not that easy. Even after you develop some good development, we thought that after that we can able to sit longer. Actually not also. I tried that also. Some yogis also tried that also. After that, the faculties all go haywire. The noting mind, the balancing of the noting mind goes haywire. Sometimes some yogis also, like, objects are quite small, not so clear, and then after that they try to notice it again and again. That time they try to push, they try to push it. Then after more than an hour, things are still not clear yet. Then they try to push it some more. That is where it gets into a lot of problem. Sometimes also, like, yogis get into a lot of they're sitting for a longer period of time. Because of that sitting a longer period of time, pain develops. When the pain develops, then you sit more than 1 hour. As I said, the meditation pain can become a physical pain. It can develop into such a pain that you sleep, you walk, also the pain is there. And then when you begin to come to a retreat, there's nothing. But when you're in the middle of the retreat, this type of things develop. So we don't want you to go into that area. So it sometimes, because you still have a number of days to do the retreat, then every time you have to sit, every time you have to walk, then everything will start to accumulate again and again. So generally, most of the time, we don't encourage the yogis to sit more than an hour. If you finish that 1 hour, still something clear for you to see, give yourself another 5 minutes, or get up and walk already. Get up and walk, bring the mindfulness into the walking. Bring the mindfulness in the walking, let the mindfulness continue in the walking. Then also you can see a lot of things quite clearly. Not necessary all the time sitting and that's it, you stop and then you don't bring it over to the walking. So bring it over to the walking. Actually, when the mindfulness is clear, the sensation of the lifting, pushing, dropping, or right step, left step also becomes quite clear. But once in a while, in this type of retreat, once in a while, if you sit longer than that, it's fine. It's not a problem. It's not a problem for most of the time. It's not a problem. If just one day you sit a little bit more than 1 hour, maybe an hour, 15 minutes, 1.5 hours, it's not a problem. Once in a while, or once a day, or 2 days, 3 days, one time, it's okay. But not every sitting. Every sitting you sit more than that, it's going to affect the faculties. It affect a lot of the faculties. A lot of balancing of the mind. This is what we see. Theoretically, it sounds nice. Practically, all the balance all gone. This is most of the time what we see. That's why we ask yogi to stay with 1 hour walk, 1 hour sit. You balance it throughout your whole 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 month, 3 months. You want to stay here 1 year also can if you want to. All right, next one, next question. The next question, also another open-ended question. It's not clear answer for it. Can I substitute rising, falling of our abdomen with the in-breath, out-breath as a meditation object? After all, it is the same breath, only different parts of the body. Can I substitute rising and falling of our abdomen with in-breath, out-breath as a meditation object? After all, it is the same breath, only different parts of the body. Okay. Now, here, when you say a meditation object, I would guess that it is a primary meditation object. You want to substitute a primary meditation object from an abdomen to a in-breath, out-breath. Okay. You see, this one, again here, is an open-ended question. Open-ended, and it means there are multiple ways how you're going to approach the question. Now, over here, we are taught to use the rising and falling as the development when you start off with your meditation. We don't encourage the yogis to use in-breath, out-breath yet. Not yet. Doesn't mean cannot, just not yet. There are yogis think that it's totally cannot, and that is wrong. Not to say cannot, but not yet. Now, in the beginning, when you come into starting to develop this meditation, the primary object you are given is the rising and falling, then the rest of the sitting objects are like pain, pulling, sitting and touching. All those are secondary objects. To me, primary objects and secondary objects, both of them are equally important. Not primary object is more important than the secondary object. But sometimes we may hear primary objects are more important than the secondary object. Therefore, what the yogi here is that just use the primary object and forget about the secondary object. That's what they hear or what they think it's supposed to be. But that is not how Vipassana is approached. Vipassana approach, although in the teaching we say that it is primary, secondary, but when it comes to the practice, both of them are equally important depending on which one is predominant. Okay, now since we are using the rising and falling, the in-breath, out-breath also considered as a secondary object. Okay, now some of us perhaps, you may come from different backgrounds of meditation. You may come from an anapanasati. And because of you come from an anapanasati, and then there are yogis who tend to go into the samatha way of meditation. Okay. Now, when you want to do vipassana, that you are supposed to see the changes in the object. You're supposed to see how the rising, falling, moving, whether it's long, short, or even if you're taking anapana, you have to take it long, short, fast, slow, whatever that is going on. That means you're actively noticing what is going on. But because you come from, let's say, anapanasati environment, and anapanasati type of retreat, then the tendency is that when you come into a vipassana, you will still use the in-breath, out-breath, and then you're still not noting the object, seeing its changes and all that. Very quickly, the mind goes into its habit of just picking up in, then nothing already. Then you tell them to go back to the rising and falling. Cannot, they just go in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. So it's not as easy for them to change from an anapanasati to a rising and falling. Because every time when they touch on the anapanasati, they will go into a lot of the way of samatha. Sometimes people thought anapanasati as vipassana, but the way the yogi is doing it, it's like a samatha way. Like they are not seeing the changes of the object. They are just in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. Very nice, very smooth. No pain, no nothing throughout the whole leg or the body. Very peaceful. So because of that, we try to encourage yogis who come from this type of background. When you come to this type of Mahasi method, you have to make an effort to differentiate the in-breath, out-breath, and the rising and falling. Every time you have to direct the mind to the rising and falling. Every time you direct it until you get used to it with the in-breath, with the rising and falling. Then only that time you begin to pay attention to more and more what is really going on. If again, when you go back to the in-breath, out-breath, again, the tendency of the mind will still go back to the just in-breath, out-breath. And very peaceful. So that is one thing why we teach the rising and falling, because it is, for me, it's just to separate them so that you don't go into too much of samatha. You have to go into vipassana. So this is one thing. The second thing in the beginning of a retreat also, if you're a beginner of yogi. Yeah? And your rising, falling is sometimes there, sometimes not so clear. And then once in a while it pops up, once in a while it kind of like disappear. That means more or less progress is not very far yet. Because of that, once in a while, the in-breath, out-breath can become more clearer than the rising and falling. Okay? It can become more clearer than the rising and falling because rising and falling is not so much there. So during that time, because of the in-breath, out-breath is clear, now you can take up the in-breath, out-breath. Pay attention to the in-breath, out-breath. Okay? You pay attention to the in-breath, out-breath. But don't take it for too long. Because in-breath, out-breath, the tendency of an in-breath, out-breath is that in the beginning of the in-breath, out-breath, it looks clear. It looks quite clear that you can able to notice, you can able to follow it. In, out, in, out, in, out. But because of the nature of in-breath, out-breath, usually the tendency is that after that, it goes like from clear and gone. Then it's not so clear anymore. Then after that, pleasant again. Yeah. Yeah. So this is another why that we don't encourage the yogis to use in-breath, out-breath too much, especially in this type of meditation, in the beginning part. But if you are a more advanced yogi, that means that you sit down, the rising and falling becomes very clear, right? Changes here and there and so on already, you know? You don't have to like wait, is there rising, falling or not? Not yet. Wait for a while, rising, falling, not yet. That one still got a lot of things to do, you know? But for others that they sit down, the in-breath, out-breath, the movements or in-breath, out, or rising, falling, is already very fast, very clear, very, very active already. At that time, even they take up in-breath, out-breath, then the in-breath, out-breath thought doesn't really goes into like, go into soft. Why? Because of their mindfulness is continuous and strong. It's not because of the in-breath, out-breath, or rising and falling, but it's because of the mindfulness is strong. So, in other words, if your mindfulness is not strong, you take up certain object and your mindfulness is not strong, everything will go into nothing much. Yeah. It's because of the mindfulness is not strong. So mindfulness is always important, especially for those who are just beginning in the retreat. All you need to do is keep your mind in the present and pay attention to what is going on. Whether it's sitting, walking, or your daily activities. So this is one thing. Now, another thing about in-breath, out-breath, and rising and falling. Here, the question I was asking about. After all, they are within the same, breathing system, in the same way. That's how we think it as physiologically. We think it that way, But when the Buddha taught it, it says that this breathing and this rising and falling is two different wind elements. Although they are wind element, but there are two different wind elements. In breath, out breath as a wind element, rising and falling as another wind element. There are 6 types of wind element. Yeah? So there are 2 parts of it is these 2. Psychologically, physiologically, or the way that we understand, we thought that all this is breathing in and out. But actually, when it comes to the meditation, we have to let go of that thinking. We have to let go of that thinking. You must consider rising and falling as an object. Consider in-breath, out-breath as an object. Don't worry how it connects. Because a lot of times when we thinking about how the whole thing connect, actually it's a lot of concept and theory is superimposed onto our noting. And with that, sometimes it affects our noting. In other words, it affects the clarity and the progress of the meditation. So let it go, but it's very hard to let go because we want to think how we want to think. So nevertheless, keep it to the rising and falling as your main primary object. In the beginning, especially when you start meditation, doing this vipassana method. Now, later part, when you are getting much more advanced, it doesn't matter whether in breath, out breath, rising, falling, sitting, touching, or whichever object, it does not matter anymore because every object you notice it's all changing, arising, and passing away. You don't go and debate whether should I take up in breath, out breath, rising, falling, sitting, touching. No more. Because all this concept, thinking of which one is all gone. Because every time you sit down, it's all changing and changing and changing and changing. You don't even have time to know which one is in breath, out breath, which one is out breath, which one is rising and falling. There's no name anymore. So that's why when you come into the deeper aspect of meditation, all the argument of whether you should take up in breath, out breath first, or rising and falling first, whether a rising and falling taught by the Buddha, and this and that, all those arguments all disappear, all gone. That's why, as I said, when people argue about rising, falling, in breath, out breath, and all that, I don't go and participate. This is child's play. No, then when you see the child go and play, and then they argue about which toys and all that, then you look at child's play. So when Buddhist devotees start argument about all these things, to me, I look at it like child's play. Oh, I know. But perhaps sometimes we are very, sometimes they say like that, people are very attached to all their way of doing things. So they may not feel so happy about it, but that's your level. You don't feel happy about it because you're at that level. But when you go into a deeper level, you don't even know when pain comes in also. You know the pain, but the pain is always keep on arising and passing away. And you ask the yogi, which one is arising and passing away due to pain, and which one is the arising and passing away due to the rising, falling, or the in-breath, out-breath. They cannot differentiate because everything is just three universal characteristics of arising and passing away only. So that's why when it goes deeper, all these questions are all gone. But in the meantime, before we go deep enough, so here, take up the rising and falling first. There's always something in the rising and falling. It's because most of the time, it's because the yogis are not mindful enough. No matter how shallow your rising falling is, or no matter how shallow your in-breath is, or in-breath, out-breath is, if your mindfulness is not strong enough, everything is not clear. If your mindfulness is strong enough, clear enough, it gives you any object also clear. So whose fault? So the fault is always each person's fault, not enough mindfulness. So finally, it all boils down to not enough mindfulness, not because of the object. Okay, so something like that. Next question. Okay. Number 3. While during metta meditation, if a yogi feels bodily sensations such as openness of the chest area but hardly any joy, does that mean there is more aversion in that yogi? or lack of good deeds done in the past. While during metta meditation, if a yogi feels bodily sensations such as openness of the chest area, but hardly any joy, does that mean there is more aversion in that yogi or lack of good deeds done in the past? Now, according to this question, let's put the good deeds one put aside. The good deeds one, because I think about a day or two or few days I've been mentioning the joy arises because of what? A lot of good deeds that we done in the past, because it's a pleasant feeling. A pleasant feeling arises as elation, as a pleasant mental states. Yeah. So that one, don't worry about the good deeds, that one. Put it aside. Okay. Now, when you do metta meditation or even karuna meditation, does not mean the moment you start that meditation, all joy come in. Everything come. That you're bathed with it. No, it's not that. That's not the way how this metta meditation works. This is not how metta meditation works. Like this is not how metta meditation works. Joy comes in during this type of meditation. It comes in a while later. What is a while later? A while later means when your mindfulness starts to develop together with the metta. If your mindfulness doesn't come in, there's also no metta. Other words, after that, there's no joy also. There's nothing much there. Yeah? Even sometimes there is metta, but does not mean there's always joy. Okay? Joy comes in a bit more purified type of joy, is usually comes in together with the metta. Okay. Now, so when you do metta meditation, a lot of times I notice that yogis, when they do metta or even karuna, they don't really mean what they go through in the mind. Why they have the meaning perhaps is not strong for them. Perhaps maybe throughout their whole life, they don't have that loving kindness towards other people. They don't have that goodwill, the wishing of goodwill towards others. The mind is always have a lot of greed, have a lot of thinking, have a lot of cunningness, a lot of whatever, except all this metta or except this wholesome state of mind. So they don't have much of goodwill towards others. Sometimes because of the way that we brought up, or the way that we go into our working life and so on. Somebody is trying to be nice to you, you know that these people is, you know that is, or you try to be nice with somebody, sometimes we have ulterior motive at the back. Not really straightforward, not really altruistic in that sense. So when we come to do metta, then sometimes it's not so strong. So one thing. Second thing is that, as I said, the way that we arouse the words have to be meaningful to you. The words have to be meaningful to you. Sometimes I use those words in my metta or in my karuna. I do it because it's meaningful to me. But whether it's meaningful to you or not, that's another thing. Those words are meaningful to me because when I use those words, I can feel metta coming out. Metta coming out doesn't mean that it always must be strong joy, strong elation. Not like that. It may be a mere soft state of mind, soft type of heart. So if you don't feel any type of joy during in a metta meditation, if you feel that your chest is like spreading out and so on, it's perfectly all right. It's perfectly all right. Just continue with the words, continue with the mental recitation and make sure that the metta is keep on coming out. Don't worry about that joy. The joy, it comes secondary. So make sure that during in the metta or karuna, there's mindfulness is there. That means you're alert, you're aware of what you are doing. And at the same time, you learn to feel the meaning of those words that you mentally recite. And particular like karuna or metta will start to develop. So this is how we develop metta in the beginning. Start off with mindfulness first, start off with good mindfulness first, metta will follow through. All right, the next question. Why sadness is an unwholesome mental state? Why sadness is an unwholesome mental state? All right. Why mindfulness is a wholesome state? Why wisdom is a wholesome mental state? Why effort is neither wholesome nor unwholesome if they stand on their own? For example, you see, when we learn about the states of mind, different states of mind, and this time a bit of theory, especially in the Abhidhamma theory, will be helpful. It will be helpful. For example, the question over here, why sadness is an unwholesome mental state now? Because actually it's a easy answer. Because it produces unhappy resultant in the future. It produces unhappy resultant in the future. That's why it's unwholesome mental state. It produces unhappy resultant in the future. The in the future can be now, can be next life, can be in the future lives. Because its nature is like that. Wholesome mental state, for example, like mindfulness, every time the mindfulness arises, there's always wholesome, there's always a resultant in the present, in the next life, or in the future lives. There will be resultant. Not just because the Abhidhamma Sukha, you want to categorize this, you want to categorize that as they like, It's not because of that. It's because they produces resultant. Karma, cause and effect. In the understanding of Abhidhamma, there are certain a number of things will always produces unhappy resultant. Every time, like anger. Anger is an unhappy resultant. Greed, also the resultant is also unhappy resultant. But again, greed, there's different level, very different level. Anger, no different level. Even like Anagami also still got a little bit of greed. Anagami, right up to greed, still got a little bit. But it's usually this type of craving, not the sensual greed, but still fall under greed. Okay? But that one, this one, the resultant is very, very little. It doesn't bring them into into woeful states. But sadness one, it brings you to the woeful states one. If the condition is strong, anger, if the condition is strong, it brings you to this one also. Like wrong view. Wrong view is a terrible, unwholesome state. And yet, people don't think of it as horrible and so on. You see, the first thing first thing as a Sotapanna to do is to cut off that wrong view. It doesn't cut off anger yet. It doesn't cut off greed yet. It cuts off that wrong view first. The wrong view is terrible. You can be a very nice person. You can be a wonderful person, but full of wrong view. Somehow wrong view attracted you. Somehow, because we do not know what you have done in the past. You can be a very kind, you can be a very pleasant person, but full of wrong view. And that wrong view, if it remain dormant, it remain not so strong, then you're quite okay. But if it goes up stronger, that wrong view will spur you to kill, spur you to cheat and whatever. And then you believe that you're still right. You believe that you're still purified. Yeah. You can kill, you can do whatever kind of thing. You're still you still think that you're a good person because you follow that type of teaching or that type of view. During the Buddha's time, people met Buddha face to face so many times. But because of their wrong view, right in front like that, the Buddha spoke, cannot go inside, cannot understand at all, cannot touch at all that into the heart. So this sadness, it falls under, there's a greed, hatred, and delusion. Dosa, loba, dosa, moha, the three evil roots. So this sadness also falls under the hatred group, dosa group. Dosa group, you have a number of them, like aversion, anger, aversion, anger, dislike. Then you have this like fear. You have this fear, you have sadness, you have jealousy. All these fall under the hatred group. This dosa group or hatred group, it becomes one characteristic that binds them. Unpleasant mental feelings. It binds them all. So every time sadness arises, every time anger arises, there's always unpleasant mental feelings. The bodily unpleasant bodily feelings is like your pain, aches, and so on. But when it comes to unpleasant mental feelings, it's like your sadness that's connected with it, or jealousy connected with it, or anger connected with it, and so on. So next time when you have sadness that comes up, emotional state, very strong state, it comes up, or the fear that comes up, at the time you take an opportunity to take note of it, see and feel how this sadness come up, how this sadness is there, its characteristic. Even the tears may come out, or it can come out like a waterfall like that. Just note it, observe it, and feel it also. And during this time, the sadness sometimes becomes stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger until you can't take it. That's how much your defilements are. It's trying to show you your defilements are that much, until you develop your mindfulness getting stronger and stronger day after day. Then next time when this type of sadness coming in, you see that the mind can able to manage it much more better. It still come in, doesn't mean it doesn't come in, but when it comes in, maybe this time no more tears already. Still sad, but no more tears already. Because that sadness may be associated with somebody pass away, loved one pass away, or some certain incident in your past. Then every time you touch on that sadness, all the tears and everything happens. So this time is that as a yogi, your job is to see the sadness, see its characteristic, how it burns the heart, how it really make a turmoil, inside the heart. So pay attention to it, learn to feel it. You will see the difference as the mindfulness starts to develop. Whenever it arises, and it will definitely arise one day or another, when it comes up, you see that when the mindfulness gets stronger, you can manage on it much more better. Until one day, the mind getting so much more stronger, you can still remember all the passing away of the loved ones and all that thing, but the sadness, it's over. There's no more sadness because this time comes in with just mindfulness and understanding of the states of this thing. So, in other words, the unwholesome karma is not being produced at that time anymore because the sadness is no more. Thoughts are still there, but the sadness is no more. So you stop the present production of the unwholesome karma, unwholesome mental karma. You stop the production at this moment of time. Then that's why it becomes much more happier. Yeah, huh? So something like that. Huh? So sadness is an unwholesome mental state because it produces unhappy resultant. Yeah. When let's not go and talk further into unhappy resultant because it's going to touch on hell, animal kingdom, and all that thing. It's a lot. Maybe because now it's hungry ghost, y'all get even more fearful. Okay, next one. Sometimes when we talk about all these type of things, sometimes yogis they have don't know what type of phobia they have, phobia about ghosts, phobia about everything. They come to retreat, they have to come together, cannot come alone. After I'm afraid that all things come in. When it comes to like, don't know which talk I will talk. Somewhere in tranquility or in concentration, I will touch on the different types of mental states also, and see where all our phobia comes in, and also learn how to overcome them also. But if the phobia is still strong, which is actually a fear, if they're that strong, then you have to take a longer time. Okay, next question. Short questions but long answers. Kindly explain further mind noting the mind with examples. Kindly explain further mind noting the mind with examples. Okay. Now, when we use the word mind noting the mind, other words, it's like the noting mind is noting the mind itself. Other words, this falls under what we call chittanupassana. Uh, 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 Noting on the mind repeatedly again and again. So falls under this chittanupassana. And then, of course, it's just like the concept of when we talk about a body, a feeling. When you have pain, you put your attention there. Pay attention to it. How is it? At the same time, if you're a beginner, you label it. You label them. And I talk about labeling since those of you are just beginning to start. Whether you have some previous experience, first few days is always good to label your object because to direct the mind to the object much more faster, much more quicker. Lifting, pushing, dropping, label it as lifting, pushing, dropping, rising, falling, label it again and again. It directs, anchors the mind onto the object much more better. So you have like in the body you have the let's say this time is the pain feelings, although feelings is actually fall under the mind but it's connected to your body, so we call it the bodily feelings. But so you put your attention there, you pay attention to it. So because you do that, you are noticing, you're observing the object of what is going on. The mind also falls under the same concept. You have a mind states, you have a noting mind. So this time, let's say we take up that sadness. Just now we talk about the sadness. Let's say this time sadness arises in you. Outside, nobody knows that what is going on. Nobody sees you what is going on. You only know yourself. And this time the sadness is strong. It pops up. It pops up connected with a lot of thoughts, a lot of past remembering of things that has already happened, perhaps like somebody died and so on. Yeah? So it pops up. So this time, it becomes a predominant object. You let go of your rising and falling, let go of everything. So this time, the mind is going into a turmoil. A lot of sensation is going on. So this time, what you do is that you're brave enough. You must make sure that you are brave enough to really face to what is going on. When you face with the sadness at this moment of time, you will also see all the past phases and so on. Yeah? You will see all your mother or your parents or your loved ones and so on, and it can sometimes become quite clear to you. It can be quite clear to you. So your job here as a Vipassana yogi, your job is to note them. Sadness, 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 or seeing. The more that you notice it this time, the more it will become stronger. Because it becomes stronger, your job is to keep noticing it also. You begin to see its changes of that sadness and also that thought also. You begin to see how it grips and how difficult and how it really makes the whole mind into a lot of frenzy, a lot of emotional states and so on. But that is how in the beginning of noting this type of emotional states. A lot of people, they dare not and they don't want to see this type of states. Every time this type of states coming to them, and they want to suppress it. When they suppress it, it gets, in the beginning, they thought that they could win the battle, but you're going to lose the war. You win that time only, but after that, it's going to come in again and come in again. You just can't take it. You will blow up or you give up the whole meditation. And this type of things are because our meditation starts to develop, all your thoughts and all the faces that you're going to see can be very clear. As if like your mom has passed away 20 years ago, when you meditate, it's right in front of your face at that time. So how your emotion is going to react at this moment of time, and you know that the person already passed away. So the reaction, the momentum is going to come in very strongly. So your job is to note it, pay attention to it, note it. Sadness, crying, emotion. That's how we pay attention, mind, noting the mind. Okay, we look at it. We look at it, how it goes stronger, lesser, and so on. As best as you can, pay attention to it. Then, if your mindfulness is strong enough, you see that the mindfulness will slowly take over, the sadness will begin to lessen and lessen and lessen. Doesn't mean that it's going to go away. Next time it may come up again. Your job is again to pay attention to it. So this is how the mind noting the mind, because the sadness falls under mental category. Or sometimes it's not just only unwholesome mental states, it can also be a wholesome mental state also. Now, sometimes when you meditate, you watch your rising and falling, and then after that, you notice that your mind, your alertness become very clear. Your alertness become very clear, and this time you let go of the rising and falling. You pay attention to your alertness. Alert, clear. You see that state of mind also. What is going on with that state of mind? Sometimes you notice that the state of mind becomes brighter, less, and so on. It's quite interesting to see. Sometimes like mental states like can come in with like very random thoughts. No happy feeling, no sad feeling, no joyful feeling. Is everything just it just thoughts just floating through, Uh, Sometimes when this type of again here there are thoughts that passing through, if it becomes predominant and becomes clear to you and is you know that it's been staying for a while, then pay attention to it also. See how they go from one thought after another thought after another thought after another thought. Sometimes you don't feel anything. It's just like one picture go after a picture, another one. But what you should be careful over here is that you should not associate whatever that you see inside the thoughts as yours or I. Because when the thoughts are passing through, sometimes you may see faces, people, you may see places that you have gone, or places that you have never been. Because now the mind imagine, or you see things, or you thought that you see ghosts, or you thought that you see things this and that, or you thought that you can see things far away, or you thought that you can remember things very far into the past. All these things is you think it's yours. You think that this one is connected to myself, my mother. Oh, I've been there. I've been there with my family. Or even you see your horrible bosses, even you retired for 10 years and that face also still so strong. Then it still come up and then that time also, it is not yours. Although you don't want it, but you associate with him. My boss last time. Because you associate it with yourself. Because you associate with yourself, your emotion will get entangled inside. So whenever you see this type of thoughts passing through, you must not associate with I. Sometimes you have to tell yourself, hey, this is just only thoughts passing through. They are just passing through only. They are passing through. It's not my mother. Although I can see the face, but not my mother. It's just mental projection only. Which is true. It's just a mental projection. There's a mental projection only, and it comes up and it's quite strong. So your job is to just to see it passing through, passing through, passing through, passing through, passing through. Say it's easier. Tomorrow you do exactly what I say, the opposite. You keep falling in the, oh, my beloved one. Oh, my happy situation. Oh, so sad. Oh. But hopefully, if you can, suddenly you remember, oh, last night or yesterday he said like that. Try to pull out your mind from it. At least you know what to do, Because if you do not know what to do, this type of things is going to go into more and more and more, and you actually believe that you can see something, but actually it's just the mind projecting. But because the mind projecting into much more clearer, you believe that you can do something, so the mind can go overdoing all these things because associated with I, everything associated with I. So make sure that mindfulness is there. If the mindfulness is there, it helps to protect the mind. This is not mine. This is just another thought, another image that's passing through. Okay, right. Next question. All right, this one also is interesting. Okay, let me see. Now, during interview, when the yogi looks at the face of the teacher, the detail of the face become blur. Attention is there and distance is not a problem. Why this happen? During interview, when the yogi look at the face of the teacher, the detail of the face become blur. Attention is there and the distance is not a problem. Why this happen? Why this happened? How do I know? Maybe you're getting older. You can't see already. Who knows? This question, I'm perhaps getting older when past 1 or 2 years, perhaps I can understand, Before then, what? Now I'm on the way. That is one thing, but I got another answer for it. That's totally another answer for it. Huh? Now, when we are mindful, I mean, we are really mindful. This is not just only surfacely mindful. When you are really mindful and you are really clear, whether you are during the interview or whether you are walking or whether you are sitting or whether you are doing your daily activities mindfully. Now, if you're paying attention to something else, let's say, for example, when you are doing walking meditation and your attention is on the leg most of the time, and your attention is on the leg, and you notice that the whole lifting, pushing, dropping, and so on. At times, once in a while, if you aware of your eyes, that time the eyes also is not really focusing on the floor. Your seeing on the floor is also blur for a short while before the whole attention comes to the back to the eye again, and then the vision becomes focused again, clear again. So at times also it happens when you are paying attention to what is going on. So because of the nature of our attention is at the object. So these things happen if you are mindful and if you are aware of it. The next thing sometimes like you are noticing when you're standing, let's say, your eyes are open. So when your eyes are open, then the time you notice seeing. If you notice the seeing carefully, then that time the seeing object becomes blur. And your this time your attention is going into the seeing consciousness. That means you begin to aware of the seeing consciousness, what is happening internally, rather than what is on the object. Right? What is on the seeing, what is in the object itself. In our everyday life, we don't do like this. We seize the object. We don't notice the seeing consciousness that is happening behind it. So as a yogi, Vipassana yogi, we step back and we begin to notice seeing. So once in a while, if your mindfulness is strong, then the seeing becomes blur. And sometimes when this happens, yogis sometimes become confused. They thought that their eyes is wrong. They take up their spec and they put back and see, okay. So what happened at this time? They get confused a little bit. And these things, you get used to it. You'll come to understand yourself. Okay, you come to understand yourself. Sometimes also like your senses also like hearing also the same thing. You hear. If you don't really hear what you are hearing, but now you're noticing your consciousness is coming, going, then it happens. So sometimes also for some yogis who develop the mindfulness much more consistently and they have developed it for some time, these things also tends to happen. Whether you are in the interview and sometimes the mindfulness starts to kick in at that moment of time, and then the moment that you start to notice, everything starts to blur a little bit. So it's all because of your mindfulness again, continuity of the mindfulness. So it's okay. So this one is nothing, no problem with our organs, all the external organs. So don't worry, you're not going blind, you're not going deaf. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, the next one. The next two questions is from the online. Okay, next question. Bhante, you were saying how to arouse the joy in our meditation by doing the recollection of the Buddha, the Dhamma, Sangha. When should I do it? Is it in the beginning of the meditation or when the mind can't focus well or when the mind is dull? Okay, so you were saying about how to arouse joy in our meditation by doing the recollection of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. We've been talking about that since yesterday and a little bit day before. When should I do it? Is it in the beginning of the meditation or when the mind can't focus well or when the mind is dull? Now, I haven't talked about when you should do it because I'm planning to talk about it on Monday, but you already jumped the gun already. It's okay. Since there are people who query about it, it's fine. Because in the past also, when arousing, sometimes we do certain other meditation in order to support the vipassana meditation. So when you do it, uh, there is a way, there is a number of ways what we can do when using something to support the vipassana meditation. Now, let's say you are doing metta or the Buddha Nusati, Dhamma Nusati, or Sangha Nusati, the recollection of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Then some people like to do it like in the beginning of the sitting meditation. They like to do it in the sitting meditation. For example, they like to do it, if you do it at home, every sitting that you do, it's fine, but not during in the retreat session. During the retreat session, you should not do it every time you start off with the sitting meditation. Your job is to make sure that you tie your mindfulness that you develop from your walking, you tie it down to the sitting. That means you mindfully, you take it down. Don't go and switch the car and everything into a may I be well and happy. May I be free from all suffering. You switch car already, switch vehicle already. So you make sure that you still sit in the same car. From a walking, then you go into the sitting. Vipassana. Both of them are still doing vipassana. If your mind is clear, then make sure that you don't bring all the metta, Buddha, the Dhamma, and Sangha, and then come and kacau your whole, disturb all your meditation. So make sure that during this time, you don't do that. When can you do it? Like in the retreat time. In the retreat time, perhaps like in the early morning. Perhaps when you wake up, things are not clear yet. Bong bong, still not very clear. Then you start with something. Sometimes you know that after a few days, you're still sleepy in the morning. Might as well do something else. So start off with a bit of metta. Sometimes, for example, for me, in the early morning, sometimes I start off with a bit of metta first. Bit of metta, like do it for half an hour. Then once the mindfulness starts to pick up and then switch over to rising, falling, sitting, touching, and so on. Then the mind is clear. For another half an hour, then get up for whatever that you need to do. So that it can be helpful. Sometimes some yogis out of due to their nature of their faith, due to the nature of their faith, they like to start off with Buddha Nusati. They start off with Buddha Nusati, perhaps they start off with Arahang, 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 Arahang. Like yesterday, what I said is that you need to know its meaning of the Arahang. If not, you are just a parrot and you just feel good about the words only. So you don't even know what is going on, the understanding of the word Arahang. So if you want to do Buddha Nusati, you make sure that you recollect it, Arahang, 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 or you want to start off with a bit of mental recitation of Iti Piso and all that. Perfect, all right. But make sure that after that is Arahang, 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 Arahang. Then after a while, if your mindfulness able to become clear because of that faith that you have towards the qualities of the Buddha. Then when the mind is stirs up, clear, then switch over to Vipassana. That's how we do it. Yeah? Now, once in a while, we can also use these things, the metta or this thing, in the middle of in the middle of the day. Sometimes the whole sitting, you know that it's quite drowsy, and nothing much coming in. At that time, we switch to the metta for a while, if possible, because this time the sloth and torpor can be very strong. Whatever you want to switch, also sleep also. Say it's easier, but sometimes it can able to arouse the mind up again. Uh, some people do it in that way. We're going to talk about that also a little bit more on Monday. I haven't finished with the types of recollection, but also we're going to look into it, how to do it. We're going to see into that. All right, that one on Monday. So the last question, not too much. Just focus on all the recollection line by line, or just one phase, arahang. Such indeed is the exalted one. Is this sufficient enough? So, for example, the Itipiso, there are 9 qualities of the Buddha. Okay? The question is that should you just do one and forget all, or is it more than that? Again, here is a technique also. So here sometimes one may be sufficient to arouse the mindfulness, clarity of the mind, then it works already, in other words. Sometimes that particular arahang doesn't feel so good. Sama Sambuddha feels better for that day, Then you use the Sama Sambuddha, then you drop the arahang. And then sometimes the Bhagawa feels much more better for the day. And then you use the word Bhagawa, the blessed one, the exalted one. And you use that word itself. Now, if some days you find that there are 3 is good, then use the 3. But then recollection here is sometimes if you have 3, you drop to 2, you drop to 1, and then you just stay with 1. And then you make the mind clearer and clearer. Something like that. So we're not going to talk about this more than that. We are not going to touch on this more than that. By the way, since this question number 8 now, such indeed is the exalted one, such indeed is the blessed one. Usually it begin by Itipiso Bhagawa, right? That one is not the quality of the Buddha yet, The quality of the Buddha starts with Arahang, starts with Arahang first. Itipiso Bhagawa is to point to the audience, that is the quality. This is not the beginning one. Itipiso Bhagawa starts with Arahang. Okay? So something like that on the Q&A for tonight. So we'll stop here. Okay, we share minutes. Idang me bawanang Nibbanasa Pachayo Hotu. May my mental cultivation be a condition for the realization of Nibbana. Imang no Punya Bagang Sabba Satanang Dema. We share these merits with our departed ones, with all beings and all the devas. Sabbe Satta Sukhi Hontu Anumodantu. May all beings be happy. May they rejoice in these merits. Sadhu. Sadhu. Sadhu.